Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I was having a conversation here recently, and it revolved around what the old farms look like. And I grew up on the old farms. My grandparents' farm was a big, large, really self-sufficient farm. And then the farm that I grew up on that my parents had was a little bit smaller, but they shared a lot of things in common. And with, modern preparedness, what it is, and people wanting to get out to the country and kind of reconnect with that pastoral lifestyle and that old-time agriculture, I thought that this was an interesting point that I wanted to make here. There were three buildings that were always on any of the old farms, big or small. And I remember this quite well growing up. And there's one building in particular that I'm going to talk to you guys about here. But one was a brooder house and a chicken coop. Every farm had a brooder house or a chicken coop where they had their poultry in. Chickens usually, hens to lay eggs, raise their baby chicks in and stuff. Every farm had that, and no matter how old and crippled the old people were, they still had chickens. They maybe give up the having cattle and having hogs and that kind of stuff, but they never ever gave up poultry, chickens. It was just something that they always had. The other thing was a smokehouse. Every farm had a smokehouse because back before all the modern conveniences that we got now, a smokehouse was their freezer and their refrigerator 6 months of the year. So from October through April, you smoked and hung your meat, your hams, your bacon, sausage and stuff. That all got hung in the smokehouse, and your smokehouse was your backstock, basically. It was your food for the winter. It was your preserved meat. And then the one that I really want to talk to you guys about is the corn crib. You don't see a lot of corn cribs around anymore. And what a corn crib is, if you guys have never, ever seen or heard of them, it's a building that's built with gaps in the walls. There's like slats of wood that go all the way around it so air can pass through that building. And what they would do is they would harvest the corn on the cobs and they would put it in the corn crib. And because that air flowed through that building, had a roof on it, usually made of some kind of tin or sheet metal, and when that air blew through there, it naturally dried that corn. See, now corn, like you go up to the farm store or whatever now and you buy a bag of feed corn, that's been dried, and it's usually dried in either propane or natural gas dryers to make that more stable, so there's no moisture in that corn. But years ago, they didn't do that. They harvested the corn on the cob and they put it in their corn crib, and basically nature dried that corn out, and then it's stored for the winter so they could use it for their animals. And then the other thing that corn cribs were used for was firewood. This I remember from my childhood growing up. There was a very large corn crib that stored cob corn back on my grandparents' farm, but our small corn crib on mom and dad's little farm, that was used for firewood, and it does the exact same thing for firewood that it does for cobbed corn. Because the air blows through there, it dries out your firewood. So even if your firewood was a little wet, a little green, you had your roof on top to keep the rain off of it, but then you had that constant airflow blowing through, which kept your firewood dry and ready to go in the wood stove. And my mom and dad actually had a small lean-to on the one side of the corn crib, but then where they kept kindling in on top of it. So then they had their kindling pre-done up, and then they had their firewood done up as well. But corn cribs are something, most of the old ones around here have all been torn down. I actually scoured my photographs in my archives to see if I had a picture of mom and dad's old corn crib, but I didn't have a picture of it back in the heyday. But I wanted to share that little tidbit of information that don't count out these natural ways to dry and store things, because I'll tell you what, corn cribs were great for storing their corn on the cob and then storing firewood as well. Kept it dry, and it kept it dried out even if it was a little bit wet because of the airflow going through it. But anyways, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Just wanted to share that little story with you guys here today. Hope you guys get something out of my videos as always, and you guys have a good one.